Hi there, it's Kevin with the Rogue Market here with a tutorial video for the future videos that I will be coming out called the Rogue Market Breakdown. I wanted to get a video out today and it'd be one of those edited styled videos. However, I was running behind today and am not going to be able to get it out today. So instead, I'm going to show everyone the tutorial of how to read what I call the Rogue Market Breakdown icons here. So right before you, I have the Scarab God from Hour of Devastation. The first video we're going to do for the Rogue Market is going to be analyzing the key cards from Hour of Devastation and giving them a grade, see how well they are to invest in. One of the things I like to do is when sets rotate, I definitely like to look at the current price of cards and see if they have any play long term, and now is the time to get into those specific cards, or maybe right now might not be the time to get into specific cards. And that's exactly what the Rogue Market Breakdown is all about. Analyzing those cards, looking at the what ifs, looking at the current trends, and seeing if right now is a good time to buy in or when that time would be. So right before you have the card called the Scarab God. We all know the Scarab God quite well. It's the most expensive card out of the Hour of Devastation. One of the reasons why Hour of Devastation was considered a pretty terrible set and actually sold the worst in recent memories. So anyway, that's another story for another day. We're going to pull up how I go through these criteria. So first of all, we have, of course, the icon here on the left-hand side, the title here. We have these supply-demand metrics here. So the first one is modern. You can see that it's got a little modern symbol here and an X. Then we have commander. This particular one has two arrows going up. I think that this was Helm of the Host. It was underneath the Scarab God before I changed it. The set that it's coming from, a lot of people have asked what this symbol is. We'll show you that. And then the other factors, same things. A little bit of icons here. So first of all, the Scarab God. How I start to determine all the information based upon analyzing a card. Well, I use a few websites for that. The first one being, of course, good old MTG Goldfish. So MTG Goldfish is great because it's got a pretty straightforward price trend here, utilizing one of the biggest players in the marketplace, TCG Player. You can look at the current market price, the mid, what it's going for on eBay, Card Kingdom. It used to have a few other metrics here, buy list as well. It will show Card Kingdom's buy list. I think they must have signed like an exclusive deal with Card Kingdom. It used to have a little bit more here. So I'm going to find a new site that shows some other buy lists, because all this gives you a little bit of an idea of where the real value of the Scarab God is, where you should be targeting it. I never look at like the market price of the TCG mid at target price, because if you shop around, you will be able to beat these. These are for your average day Joes. This isn't for a savvy investor. One of the things that will put you ahead in the MTG Finance kind of rat race is knowing good sources to get cards. And so all I know is I really have to beat the Card Kingdom price, and I'll find people to send them to me. And yes, I have a store. Yes, I have a fan base. Yes, that helps. But anyone can use this tactic. Anyone can shoot out a number and say, hey, I'm buying Scarab Gods at $7.50. You'd be surprised at the amount of people that you'll have send you cards. All right, so that's the first metric. And of course, the trends. So trends, Scarab God is definitely starting to go down. So if we go back over to the icon, at my little Photoshop icon here, we go to the growth rate. The growth rate is right now is steadily going down. So I would change the icon here, click on this little growth rate, and we would change this from flat to, I would say it's between plummeting and dropping. So I'm going to put it as dropping, not plummeting. And that will change the icon here. And that's what I think the Scarab God is. So typically, if something is dropping, you're not going to want to invest in it at this point. You want to wait until the dropping is done and it flatlines out. So then we have go back over to the Scarab God here on MTG Goldfish. I do like to click on TCG Mid from time to time, because I got this question asked the other day about, is having a lot of supply good or bad? And my opinion is it depends. It depends. So if we come over to TCG Player, there's two things I like to look at. First of all, when you cut out all these heavy plays and moderate plays, they're not relevant. Of course, heavy plays could have a huge variance between card. If it's like a legacy card, heavy play's not nearly as going to have a ding on it as much as something from like standard. Like standard heavy play, you're looking at like a lot of times a lot less, half the value, 40% the value, just because it's easy to find lightly played and near mint versions of the card. So if we can look here, there is a pretty decent lots at $12. You can of course put this up to 50 to get a better version. Sometimes I like to just filter out all the 1-ofs and go to 4-ofs because this really gives you a better version. So if you add the shipping price plus the price, we're looking around $12 to $13. Plenty of sellers at the $12 to $13 range. Not too many, not too far off to go to the 14. So market value on TCG right now, yeah, definitely I would put this at 12 to 13. Of course, when a card monster has 80 of these at $11 a piece. Another thing you can do though is TCG Player Direct if you want a better idea of what people are paying for it, because TCG Player Direct, the vast majority of people that check out from TCG Player try to utilize this TCG Player Direct. So $12 is a pretty accurate value, though, for even TCG Player Direct. In fact, there's 50 copies. So there's plenty of supply. That means there's probably not a lot of movement as far as people actually selling the card or buying the card. And a lot of people are probably selling the card because that's all rotation is about. So I don't think this, of course, would be the right time to buy this card. So the targeted price would definitely be a lot lower. It's where do we think that this is going to settle off at when it finally flatlines out on places like eBay or TCG Player. So we come back over to our little image, come up to the targeted price. Usually I do the targeted price last because it's once I get all the data from Modern, Commander, Set Rarity, that's when I go to the targeted price. For now, for this video, we're going to change the targeted price. I would not be paying more than $8 for Scarab Gods. I think that's a pretty accurate place to go. One other place that I like to go to, since I am a card sphere, is I come over here to the card sphere, type in the Scarab God, and actually look at what people are actually buying it for. This is pretty interesting. There are a lot of people, so if you're using card sphere as your outlet to get the card, you'll probably only have to beat the first couple of these ones. So the person you really need to beat is this MES and put it at 11, and you'd get plenty of Scarab God. So I would definitely not pay more than 11. And even I think that this person might be lowering it if they've got it anchored on the 76%, then this will even be lowered even more. I think that when Guilds of Ravnica does come out, we're going to see a lot of people on platforms like CardSphere start to dump their old cards, and this is going to crash. Also, the index price isn't anchored towards the CardSphere economy, so it's just anchored towards other sources. So if the card is going down, which it is, this is going to be down to 14, then a 13, and a 1350. So if you actually want the card, pretty realistic. But I wouldn't even think in a short amount of time or a long amount of time, you don't even have to really necessarily beat this person. You could even have the offer price even go even down even lower. So $8 is probably where I'd target the Scarab Gods to get at the moment. But let's go ahead and look at these other metrics here. So of course the current price is what I like to put at what it's currently market priced at. And what do we determine? That's about a $12. $12 is where the current price is. Then these factors are what comes in. So the first thing I like to look at is Modern. So you want to look at eternal formats, eternal playability. How much is this card going to be played after it rotates out of Standard? So the supply demand is definitely where we start to look at that. Demand first with these first two brackets, Modern and Commander. So we come over here to the deck database. I like to use MTG Top 8. Sometimes you'll go over to Goldfish, but it wipes its data pretty quickly. It does not see any play in Modern whatsoever, according to MTG Goldfish. But if you come over here to MTG Top 8, you can go over to the search function, and they do a pretty good job of recording every at least paper event. It looks like it even has MTGO events on here too. So we're going to go Modern, and we're going to click on the main board and the sideboard to see how many of the Scarab Gods have been used recently in Modern or just Modern, excuse me. So we'll search it over here and see what it comes up with. So it looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 decks in a period of, wow, we're almost even approaching a year. So that I would put on very low supply. I think that if we look at here, you can even look at it gives it a level of like what type of competition. There's a second place deck not too long ago, Grand Prix Sydney, in Team Modern Unified. The problem with Team Modern is people have to use different cards. So I wonder if there's 2 blue lists. This Grixis Control was using a Scarab God. Where's the Scarab? Oh, we have to click down to Grixis Control. That's right. It doesn't automatically click on the deck. So we go to Grixis Control, and it was using a Scarab God in the sideboard. I looked at some of these other lists before I started doing the video, and the Scarab God is in the main of a couple of them, but usually it is a sideboard. So at least this player thought that the Scarab God was good enough for the sideboard. Going forward, if we do have a value-based modern with a lot of the more unfair decks like Tron and Combo being, a lot of people are thinking that Assassin's Trophy is going to have that big of a deal on the modern format, and we're going to go back to a Jund-based format. Well, the Scarab God's actually pretty solid versus decks like Jund. So could the Scarab God start to gain some equity, start to gain some real estate in modern? Possibly, but as is right now, there isn't a lot of demand for modern. So we'd go back over here to our little supply demand function here, click on the modern icon, and I'd come over here and say very low. So we'd get the two down arrows. The options here are very high. That's of course if it's being played in a top top tier deck. High if it's being, actually very high is usually if it's played in multiple top tier decks. High would be if it's in a popular top deck or if in multiple tier 2 strategies. There's a meh that's like, yeah, it can be used, but usually it's not. Usually it's something else. I'd put something like the Vithian Renegades for humans that destroys an artifact. It's just not that great anymore, so it'd be kind of a meh. Low, I would put, you'll see it in modern every now and again. And very low is exactly none, of course. Yes is yes and none. I have options as well. Yes is something if I'm not quite sure, I'll put yes, it's in modern. Yes, it's reasonably in modern. There's another icon for that. And then none, and then very low is exactly where I'd put the Scarab God because it does have some modern demand, and that's good. That's actually a plus for a card that's rotating, but not enough to really factor into demand. Then we have the commander metrics. So the one I like to do for commanders, we like to go over here to EDH Rec, and type in the Scarab God. And then it gives us an idea. It's in 1,158 decks, 1,158 commander decks. So that's actually pretty significant. And then 1,754 decks. So if we actually go over to commanders and go to 2 colors and then go Dimir, we can see how this kind of ranks as Dimir commanders. This is the 3rd most played Dimir commander. And in fact, these ones have existed way before it. So if you factor in for one of the things you need to do with EDH Rex is you can't just, all numbers are not compared equal. You can't just compare this number to this number and say, hey, a lot of people like Phoenix more. You got to figure out this is years and years of data where the Scarab God is actually quite recent. So you'd have to go and find something that is similarly recent. And I mean, Yuriko is not really similarly recent. There's not really a lot of Dimir commanders that are similarly recent, which is a good thing that everyone seems to be on the Scarab God when they are going for Dimir commanders. Very, very popular Dimir commander. So that's a huge plus for the Scarab God. Now we can go over to view as a card, 17,554. The best way to compare this is to come over to more sets here on EDH Rec and click on the Hour of Devastation. So we'll come over here, there's Hour of Devastation, and see how it compares to other cards. You can actually compare commanders here. It's very similar to Locust God, another very popular commander. But where does it rank in the whole of a commander, of the commander cards being played from a particular set? It's quite reasonable. I'd put it on the more popular of the whole entire set. It's right there with cards like Desert, or some of these deserts, right there with like even Hour of Promise and Nicol Bolas, Swarm Intelligence, but it is a little bit of ways from like Rammed-Up Excavator, Torment of Hailfire, Mirage Mirror, less than even Nahab and Razaketh. So you need to really compare a card like the Locust God would be a good comparison to see what the Locust God is currently doing. So the Locust God is being outstretched by Commander. So we'd come over here and go the Locust God, and well, it looks like Locust God is flat, but sort of trending up. This sees very little standard play, if any at all. And so this is really just the EDH that is ticking this up. So the Locust God is already flat and going up. We got to assume that $6.50 is its commander value. Scarab God might have a little bit more of a price memory, and this is definitely starting to tick up from commander, so the demand is definitely there. So I'm going to come over here to the commander breakdown. Not going to put the double here because I don't think it is a double. So we have very high, high, meh, low, very low, none. And of course, there's just the yes if it sees commander play again. I just have some of these metrics here. So I think that this is a very high, or excuse me, high. It's not a very high. It's not a meh. It's not low. It's not very low. It's definitely a nice little high. I probably should change this to moderate. I think that'll be like meh is probably moderate because if we go very high, high, moderate, low. So that'll be the icon is the little meh sign is like moderate. All right, so we will click high for the Scarab God, click yes, and then we will go over to the set rarity. Now, I got to explain this because set rarity means a ton. So you see that I have a little negative symbol by the rare Dominaria. All sets are not created equal, especially if we go back to like Theros block where there was Theros, Born of the Gods, Journey to Nyx. Theros was opened at a like 4-to-1 ratio of Born of the Gods because you open up 3 Theros in drafts, then you open up 2 Theros and 1 Born of the Gods, and then you open up 1, 1, 1. So for every Theros pack or every Born of the Gods pack out there, there's probably 4 packs or probably even more of Theros. So the rarities are different. There's a lot more supply out there for first sets than there is for second sets. So for Dominaria, supposedly the second most sold set in Magic's history, a rare out of Dominaria is not created equal to a rare out of Scars of Mirrodin, for example. So we're going to go over here to the set symbol and click on the appropriate set symbol. So this came from Hour of Devastation. Hour of Devastation is here, and it is a mythic. And Hour of Devastation mythic. And we'll go ahead and save this. And that has this little modifier. And again, that's where this comes in. Is this a negative thing? Is this like not comparable to other mythics? No. Hour of Devastation is a good place to be. But also you got to consider all the reprintings. This does have 1 reprint, which is very actually significant for Commander if people want the invocations, because the Scarab God was an invocation. However, a lot of people don't prefer the invocation because of how bad they look. So I'm actually going to give this a positive rating for the Scarab God. And we'll go ahead and click on yes. And then the replaceability. Replaceability is on other factors is how easy is this card to be replaced. I usually look at this more for like modern than anything, because if anything gets kicked off, I'm trying to think of like a recent one, like Reclamation Sage. A lot of people are saying is going to be gone now for the new one printed out of the Guilds of Ravnica, just because it's strictly better, or at least in as modern standpoint is better than the Reclamation Sage. So is the Scarab God have any sort of abilities that is very replaceable? Could they print a 5 mana or 4 mana thing that would just outclass this? And in Commander, I would say probably not. It's a really unique, powerful ability. Its replaceability is pretty good. So we're going to come over here to the oops, wrong one. That's the modifier. We're going to come over here to the replaceability and click on it. And here's the unique. So this red does not equal to, this is probably the best rating I can give it. Even though it's red, maybe we should have changed it. There's also better than a lot, but I would actually call this one, pretty much unique for what it does. There's not a lot of cards that do similar things. There's like Chainer that does, Chainer, the Tormentor, the one that they can bring back. So I'm actually going to put this better than a lot. Replaces, similar to something. These ones are probably for modern. Similar to something, replaces something. A lot are similar. This means a lot of cards could go in that slot. Equivalent to something. A lot are like it. There's also going to have, that's how these little symbols are. For this one, though, it's better than a lot of cards. This is a pretty premier card for its slot. Again, looking at modern, same thing. If we go into value-based deck, is some cards that do similar things, but not a lot that do exactly what the Scarab God does. Very powerful card in its effect. All right, so we'll put it that. Reprintability. So we'll go over to reprintability. How easy is this card to be reprinted? I don't think it is. It's going to be very hard to reprint because it's a storyline-based card and it's got a powerful mechanic. However, we've seen Commander sets start to print these later on. We saw all of the dragons from Dragons some from Dragons of Tarkir, and many, almost all, from Fate Reforged get reprinted in the Commander set. So that no longer holds true. They throw anything Commander. However, I don't know if they're going to go like a reanimation-based strategy like this for Commander. And if they do choose gods, if that's the route they go, I'm going to say this harder. It's harder to reprint. It's not unique. It has had a reprint already for the invocation, so it's hard to reprint. So we're going to give it that rating, which is a plus for it. And overall, that's basically, you know, how I go through this little rating with the Rogue Market. So next time you see these like Rogue Market statistics, I'll be using these a lot for the Rogue Roundup. I'll use them for the actual Rogue Market breakdown videos. That's how you'll be able to read it. The main thing you need to really look at is just when I start explaining them. In the Rogue Market breakdown, I'll kind of go down a very faster version of this with the particular cards. And, you know, a lot of it's going to have to look, if it's a commander card, looking at the EDH, how it stacks up versus other cards from the set with EDH. And Modern's just basically how well it stacks up versus Modern. Pretty simple stuff with MTG Finance of actually looking at where a card's going to go. So a little bit of a wrap up here. Sees a little bit of play in Modern. Sees a lot of play in Commander. It's from a positive set rarity, Mythic out of Hour of Devastation. There's not a crazy amount of them out of here compared to other cards of sets nearby. It's not very replaceable. It's pretty unique. It's not very reprintable. It's quite unique of what it does. The ability is quite powerful, and all those are going to give it a good investable rating. So I don't like it at its current price at $12. I don't. Its target price should be $8, but if you can get this in at the $8, this is where the rating comes in. So the rating, some of these are a little bit counterintuitive. Like the growth rate, I debated whether to put this on the as something that I think long-term or current. So I think right now it's current growth rate. Maybe what I should do is go a current growth rate here and duplicate it. And then, yeah, that's what I'm going to have to do. So in the future, I'm going to put a current growth rate and a expected growth rate for the future. But the rating for this particular one, I'd give it a solid B+. There are better targets than the Scarab God. We have a lot of time. Price memory is going to kick in. Like, it's got two things going for it and going against it. Price memory, people remember this is an expensive card, and it is in the hands of a lot of competitive players that no longer want it, and they're going to flood the market back with these. And I think it might even crash the price even lower than something like the Locust God. But it's really iffy. Does price memory stick higher than the Locust God just because it was a more expensive card at one point? Or does having so much supply in savvy-minded people that get rid of their cards after rotation going to crash it? So we'll have to wait and see which one happens. I think you have a lot of time to invest in the Scarab God if it's one of your picks. B+ as the rating. So there you have it. That's just kind of my go-to way of looking at cards. I use tools like, of course, MTG Goldfish. I'll use tools like the TCG Player, Card Kingdom's buy list. I always like to look. They're one of the biggest players right now. You can also use like Star City Game or Channel Fireball or Troll and Told or Abu Games or all the above. Or you can just come over here and sign up for a service like Quiet Speculation that can give you a one-stop shop for this type of information. For example, here with Quiet Speculation, supposedly I'm no longer a member of Quiet Speculation. I used it at a time. The thing that with Quiet Speculation is I pretty much could do everything they did with a little bit of time. And anyway, maybe I'll look into it in the future. So it shows you like where you can buy it somewhere for $9.50. You can actually buy list it somewhere for $10. So there is a little bit of opportunity for what we call, arbitrage, buy from one, sell from the other, make a 50-cent profit. That's probably too much labor involved and risk involved and shipping and everything else to make it worthwhile. Sometimes you can see some good things here. That's why these services like Quiet Speculation are pretty awesome. But anyway, so there's a buy list out there that is paying $10 for it. We saw the Card Sphere that people still are wanting it around this $10.75 range legitimately is what the value is of it. So all those together, you just kind of get a gauge for what a card is. Tomorrow we'll be looking at the rest of the Hour of Devastation list here. So I'll probably choose a lot of the more significant mythics as well as some of the rares, and we'll have a whole Rogue Market breakdown. It'll be more edited, so less rambly, less ums and buts and whatnot. And we'll get back to the swing of things on the Rogue Market. I apologize for not having an edited video out today. Just got behind with the other channel. I did create a video today that I'm very proud of over at the Rogue Deck Builder channel. Go check it out. Let me know what you think. And as always, I appreciate everyone, And check back tomorrow for the Hour Devastation total rogue market breakdown. Thanks for watching.